In the previous step it got cut. So we need to continue the earthly goods. And it is ending as a most shameful manner in the present Christendom as well. The pastor teachers are looking according to the order of present Christendom for some pieces of bread or for some handful of barley. They are very happy to seek earthly order, very, very happy to seek earthly order. They are not able to look upon tax in what Apostle Paul says. Set the things in order of Philippians, in a marching order of Christ's demands. And that's what many people have failed today in the present Christendom to look. How they have come to produce their lives before the Lord our God as a strange fire they have become. And it will be a very, very great shame for us when you all will stand before the presence of Lord God the Father, and Lord God the Father would ask you, are you according to the word of the Lord our God? Have you been taken according to the terms of Bible doctrine? Have you given number one priority nothing but to the word? Have you sought yourself clearly to seek the standards of the word? Being taught by the bona fide gifted male, spiritual pastor, teacher, the word male, because authority is given to male, not to female, to stand and have authority over the men, he says in 1 Timothy. And thus he concludes for her to say, it is better for you to be saved in your birth pangs of your labor, rather than having authority over the men and disobey the commandment of the Lord. How many strange incense, how many prostitute standards of teachings have developed in our pulpits today. Just for what? Earthly goods. Just for what? For their survival. Just for what? They come to the ministry for belly. Therefore Philippians 3:18 is very right, even it stands good today as well, even till the rapture of the church. Many have come who mind earthly things. Once again weepingly we say for them, these are the enemies of my Lord's cross. But we are not so, he says. And he teaches to us what we are. We are of the heavenly citizens. What we mind? We mind the heavenly things. Our order and our taxon is of the heavenly things, not of this earth. Thus, if you are of the heavenly things, what you provide? You provide that which is right and perfect in the sight of the Lord our God. That's what it would be. We provide that which is right and perfect in the sight of Christ. And yet what are we looking today in our pulpits? Like Lot, they fall to the world. Because Satan is always saying, even from a Christ in Luke 4:6 and 7, I have the glory of the world. What is the glory of the world Satan can give? 1 John 2:15 through 17, apart from the will of Lord God the Father, it has to give you the lust of flesh, the lust of eye, and the pride of life. That's what Satan can give you, the lust of flesh, the lust of eye, and the vagrant brogadakai of your life. Going from home to home like a beggar to look. And your epithumai condition of your soul, of your flesh, of your eyes. That's the glory of Satan. And what do you want to look on this world? The glory of Satan? Dear brethren, likewise, even what a shameful manner it was for Lot, because his life became morally weaker and weaker. He followed not the footsteps of his father or the way Abraham was. Due to his love of earthly goods, he became weaker and weaker, and it ended in a most shameful manner. And such is the history of Gideon as well, the one who was humble, courageous in cleansing his house of false gods, then leader of Israel and victor over Midian. But at the very end he caused his house and all the people to sin through an abhorred, which became a snare to them. If you don't come moment by moment to examine whether this is a strange fire or it is a fragrance of Christ that has to be given, then you will be like this Gideon. Though you may be beginning at the victor or victor at the beginning, but at the end you will end up snare yourself. And then furthermore, between these two paths we see the path of a believer who from the beginning to end walks without faltering in the spirit of personal holiness. Such was Abraham's path. His practice rarely contradicted his faith, and he judged his walk when it troubled his communion with God. But such was above all the uniform path of our perfect servant Christ our Lord, who set forth for us in 1 John 2:6, you shall walk like Christ. The divine standards, what he said for us in 1 Peter, walk like Christ. Abraham was also into the terms pertaining to his great personal holiness. And yet far greater than Abraham, far greater than Paul himself, he says in Ephesians 5:1, imitate God the Father, not me. As dear tech non-believer is writing that for us in the mystery epistles of the church age. But earlier he's writing for us to walk following Christ, because I follow the Lord and you follow me, he said. But now when he comes to Ephesians, he writes for us to look upon Christ, being dear beloved imitators of God the Father as his dear beloved children. And that's what we need to look, as dear beloved children. And that what are we finding today in our pulpits? We are not able to look where you're standing and how much of your strange fire has been given to the Lord every breath of your life. The so-called false pastor teachers who are entering into the pulpits haven't even had their life to understand what it is. And thus, dear brethren, Christ our Lord our God is the great uniform path for perfect standard service. So there we find not one imperfection, but rather absolute confidence, complete obedience, perfect dependence, flawless practical righteousness, divine holiness in a man, unshakable faith, unlimited love, unfaltering hope. This is the character of my Christ. Every breath of our life, if we don't stand to the purity of the word of the Lord our God, you are going to fall. Every day of your life, you have to come to learn the word of Christ. That's what the Bible teaches for us. Every day you need to come, no matter what. Whether it may rain or shine, whether it may be death in your home, you need to come to learn the word. That's the great principle, because we have to come and give account to the Lord for every breath bestowed upon us in this church age. And if you men are not interested to look upon these standards, let God help you according to the standards of the so-called the great men who are feeding you under the titles of reverends and doctorates. And we all will stand at the judgment seat of Christ. And Lord God said to Abraham, walk before me, because I am the El Shaddai, the one who suffices you with everything. He has given for us in this church age the plethora of Baltimore privileges, and he has called us to be the Kathab Kainekatesis in this church age. There is nothing short for us in this church age to honor the Lord our God above his name. There is nothing short. We cannot claim ignorance, neither we can ask for arrogance excuses before the Lord. Therefore, we need to be very, very careful, as the great wisdom man in the Old Testament writes for us some of his great instructions, some of his great themes for us to realize. He says for us in Proverbs chapter 15, how these people will end up. The heart of him that hath understanding seeketh knowledge. What is the word for seeketh? The bakash. It meant to say it will require, it will desire, it will ask more to look what is their life. That's what the heart of understanding is all about. The understanding to consider, to perceive, and to discern what is right. But whereas the mouth of the fools, again the word mouth we read, the mouth wherewith we have known as an organ of speech, it is also been called as an ingot. It is also been called as the way what we call for the fork of flame, and it is also the way what we can call as the word of the Lord our God calls for us as a cove of water. So these are the three things about this mouth. The mouth will represent for us in the way, as the word of the Lord our God says, an organ of speech. It is also been used as the way for us ingot. It is also been used as the way for the fork of flame, or fork of flame, At the same time, it is also been called as cove of water. This is the mouth. And the mouth of the fools, what they are, they kesil. Who these people are, who are stupid, who are dull, who are arrogant, who do not want to know what is the will of God the Father. Neither they make up their lives to understand what is the will of Lord God the Father and make their life applicable to the praise of His glory. So what these people are, these are kesil, says the word. And what the word kesil meant to say, they are stupid ones, arrogant ones. These are the foolish ones. That's what in simple terms to call, these are the silly ones. And what the word calls them, that these are the morons. Therefore, the foolish people will feed, that's what their mouth is fed upon, or the pasture what they take is absolutely foolishness. And that foolishness is nothing but strange fire. That's what we are talking about. And what is that? It says it's an absolute silliness, it's an absolute deceiving nature for them. And that's what it is. They figuratively go to be all the days of their life to be fools. And therefore, dear brethren, why do you want to die in your standards of being much righteous? That's what you know. You say, how we can be fool? We are much righteous. We are not fool. The reason why you say that, because you think you are doing church service. You think you are performing as an eldership work. You think you are giving strange things to the people of strangers. And what is that strange things? Rather than giving gospel, you are giving them charity shows, charity works. That's strange things. And you're happy in those standards, no matter what you may think. But the word of the Lord our God comes to caution us and to teach you, be not over righteous. And what you are doing, you are just substituting the word of the Lord our God with the cheap works of this earth, Christian programs. And you're going for what? Helping this man, helping that man, and you're working in the missionary of charities. That's being too much righteous. You are still ignorant and arrogant from the true plan of the Lord our God. The great will of the Lord our God in this church age is to give you the knowledge of Bible doctrine. That's it. He hasn't come for any other way. He hasn't come for any other procedure. And though Hezekiah, in the terms pertaining to, not Hezekiah, Hezekiah, he was said, set your house in order. And Ezekiel was been said, the dry bones will come back to life, speak them to the word. Yet the people want to be much righteous, yet the people want to look into the standards of these righteous words, of which the unbeliever of this country or unbelievers in any other part of the world who are morally right, they are still far more superior than these believers. Because the mouth of the fools will feed what? Foolishness. It is like eating the chaff rather than the wheat. And yet the Lord our God says, why you want to perish in your sickness, in your menstrual sickness of wicked spiritual activities. It has been taken till to the core. What my soul hateth, that you are giving to give to the Lord our God as a food. He loves only the knowledge of Bible doctrine. Therefore, the great mandate given to Abraham as well, walk before me, before my standards, before my truth, before my integrity. What I have given to you, to give to me right things, right fire, not strange fire, that which is as a right woman to the right husband or to the right man. So you have to be to the Lord our God according to the standards of His right woman, not according to the standards of a prostitute woman. Therefore, the church being called as a wife of Christ in the futurity, He wants what? The standards of Bible doctrine in the church to reign to the highest. If you are not giving the standards of Bible doctrine to the highest, you are not producing to the Lord our God this church, as the word says, like espoused to one husband, chaste virgin to the Lord. But rather, what are you performing? You are performing lies upon lies. The right incense is the fragrance of Christ, dear brethren. The Lord our God is our perfect example, being sent in His humanity, His Son. And He knows very well, because of our old sin nature, we do fall. Thus He has given for us the privacy of our priesthood, He being the royal high priest, so that whenever we could sin, we go back to the presence of Lord God the Father and perform the things pertaining to His glory, and not and never the things pertaining to this earth. so that you can go and give to the Lord right things in a right way. Any strange fire, any strange incense, it's not acceptable in the sight of the Lord. Though you all may think Lord God would be happy by taking this, by taking that, as many people think in that mind, Lord, remember me for the church, for what purpose I come. They come to the purpose of saying that, Lord, I come to the standards of giving you something great. Remember me for the money that I'm giving to you. Remember me for this or for that. You are strictly kidding yourselves, dear brother. Out of the pure water, he says, the throne of the Lord our God comes, the crystal clear of true life. The great crystal clear of true life, it comes, he said. And yet, many people in the present Christendom have left to give to the Lord right sacrifice. And what they're giving to my Christ? Strange things. And the pastor teachers who are teaching out, not following the divine standards of Bible doctrine, are also making up their lives to talk strange things, just for some pieces of bread or for some handful of barley. They're forgetting the divine standards of truth. They're forgetting what the Bible demands. They're forgetting what the word of the Lord our God is demanding. They've absolutely lost that which is right and perfect in the sight of the Lord our God to the highest. And what they're giving to the church? Strange things. The things what the word of the Lord our God says for us, in simple words, it's like a prostitute, it's like a harlot. And how many days more you want to give to the Lord? Strange things. He demands purity. Therefore we read in Psalms 33:4, the word of the Lord our God is straightforward. He deals all the things in fidelity. He deals all the things in faithfulness, in standard firmness of His glory. And yet, the people have lost that which is right and perfect. And dear brethren, strange things have become for us as a shelter today because of lies that these people are proclaiming. Because of these standards, what this world is looking and searching. And they're performing lies upon lies, the strange things. Dear brethren, this great and unique dispensation of the church age, given to us the power of Lord God, the Holy Spirit, to learn the truth and to be a great example of His truth and to teach what the word of the Lord our God demands. Yet you forgot what is been written, because you know not what is been written. How you will learn if you know not? In order to learn, you need to require a man to teach. And Lord God is perfect in His plan, providing in every era those faithful, bona fide, gifted male spiritual pastor teachers who could come faithfully and teach the word, no matter what it could cost for them in their life. Because they want to honor Lord's word above His name and nothing else than that. And that what are you finding today in our pulpits? Strange men entering into the pulpits to teach strange